what has happened, we talked about Richard Florida's book, The Creative Class. They want to live in robust urban environments. So place matters again. And I think Grand Rapids has turned the corner in terms of, and really in the whole region. Muskegon is trying a downtown. Holland has a great downtown. I know Wyoming is trying to redo the 28th Street corridor. But it's those kind of laws and that kind of leadership really led us to some places where we couldn't go at that time. And this area has taken advantage of those laws probably more than anybody. In fact, I was told in Lansing a couple weeks ago, you've got enough brownfield applications, you've got to share a little bit. I said, you're punishing me for being successful. That's not really appreciated. But, and it also aids in attraction of talent. When the university or Spectrum or Perigo or whoever is trying to attract talent, they come to a community, they want to look around and say, what's here? What does it look like? What can I do afterwards? And I'll talk about talent attraction in just a minute. So that's really our fourth strategic priority, is the whole idea of urban redevelopment. And you don't just find brownfields in the city of Grand Rapids or the city of Wyoming. We're helping the city of Nowego right now. We helped the city of Sparta clean up a big mess that was left by a foundry. So, you know, a lot of contaminated property in older communities because we've always had industry. And rather than using a green field somewhere out in Lowell, let's redevelop what we have first in the already urbanized areas of Grand Rapids, Wyoming, and Walker, and do infill development before we plow over another field. Because if you're talking about quality of life, which everybody does, I would like some green space, personally speaking, and you don't have to just keep pushing out and out and out. So, and all of those sites are already served by water, sewer, roads, and all the infrastructure. And rather than building another 10 miles of line someplace in a beautiful cornfield or whatever, why not reuse what we have first? And I think the right place, in collaboration with our communities, have done a very good job in taking advantage of that and really re-energizing those. And by the way, this business is, I like to call it, it's a team sport. I don't do this by myself. I can't promise help from the engineering school at GVSU if I don't have a good relationship with Paul. And so, or with a municipality like Wyoming or Grand Rapids or you name them. So it really is when we have a customer, a company, or somebody, it's our community, the state, the right place, and our other partners, whether it's the community college or GVSU or you name it. So that's the only way it works. Our fifth strategic priority is really regionalism. I mean, GVSU's headquarters is really in another county. Tom was telling me that he's collaborating with GRCC in Holland and in Muskegon with their community college. And really what it means is we can't compete if we compete against each other. If something bad happens, when Pfizer downsized in Kalamazoo, believe me, it impacted us. Because when we lose that talent in Kalamazoo, it impacts us. When Steelcase downsizes and we lose talent to another state, it impacts Kalamazoo and Holland. So while you all may live in Wyoming or Grand Rapids or Nowego or Fremont or wherever, think regionally. I'll give you a little story. I was, when I went to China for the first time a couple of years ago, Ray DeWinkle, who's a graduate, goes quite often and for attraction purposes. This very articulate young Chinese man named Shui, Ron Shui, picked me up, spoke perfect English, obviously with a Chinese accent, graduate of U of M Law School, knew Grand Rapids because everybody in China knew Amway. And I'm not kidding. I mean, it's an extraordinarily well-respected company over there. But he kept telling me that, I went to a city called Xiamen, what a beautiful small town this is. You came to the most beautiful small community in China. And we're in, and then I had 2 more meetings and I finally said, okay, how small is small? It's only 2 million people. So when you think of our region of 7 counties, Kent, Ottawa, Muskegon, Allegan, Barrie, Ionia, and Nowego, we have 1.3 million people. When I made my presentation to about 300 Chinese, and I was putting it together, Ray said to me, don't put the number down. 1.3 million does not register over there. Make it I think we're the 36th largest metro area or something like that. That resonates very differently. So, and it's true. I mean, so when I say we have to think regionally, and what's good for Newaygo and Gerber is good for the rest of us, we really have to do that. Political boundaries, particularly when you talk to a company who wants to locate here, they don't really care. They're like, oh no, is it different in Wyoming and it's different in Grand Rapids and it's different in Kentwood? Birgit, just tell me how to do business here. I don't care where I end up. So political boundaries, mayors don't often like to hear this, become hindrances, not necessarily a help. So when we go out and market, we market this, the infrastructure, the talent of this whole area, period. So where do we have some holes? One of them is a workforce issue, and I already touched on it, and we touched on it over lunch. Because we all believe truly that we're in the middle of a talent-driven economy. And I don't just necessarily mean talent that's a PhD molecular biologist. Talent, period. We are hearing from our manufacturers that they have labor shortages. Now, if you think about the unemployment rate in Michigan, that sounds like a silly thing to say, but we're talking about skilled labor. We're talking about labor that knows how to deal with computers and high-tech equipment. You're not going to put somebody behind $1 million piece of equipment who is not well-trained. Whether that's a young 2-year graduate from the community college or a 4-year engineering grad. It just doesn't happen anymore. In fact, Chrysler, Daimler, used to be Daimler Chrysler, Mitsubishi and Hyundai have a big new plant over in the Detroit area in Washtenaw County, in Dundee, not far from Cabela's, making engines, 1.8 million engines a year for those 4 car companies. It's really a global engine. It's actually called GEMA, the Global Engine Manufacturing Alliance. They will not hire anybody who either doesn't have 5 years of journeyman experience or 2 years of post-high school education. And the reason they're stayed in Michigan, because they had a really big push to go south to the Mason-Dixon line, is because of our 2-year community college system in Michigan. It puts out twice as many graduates as almost any other community college system in the country. That's why they stayed there. It was truly a talent-driven decision. They're also UIW, which is very interesting because they only have 3 job classifications. And a normal UIW plant has over 100. So very different model, but it really is talent-driven. So education, education, education is the key. Definitely without a high school diploma, forget it. Probably 2 years technical training at a minimum, and obviously college. And that brings up again, what are we getting out of Lansing? How can we convince people that funding education then becomes a key issue for this state? Our college graduation rate is not acceptable. It shouldn't be acceptable. And I know I'm preaching to the converted. We talked about it at lunch as well. And also only 27% of Michigan parents believe that it's important to have post-high school education or a college degree. So whoever you can influence in your sphere of influence, you need to do that, because we keep preaching to the converted. I mean, I'm looking at college graduates, but it's a real stumbling block. How do you convince a parent that you have to send that kid to school, or that child will make $8.50 an hour at some low-level job? And you cannot. That's not a living wage. We need to become more risk takers again in this area. This community is made up of entrepreneurs. If you think about it, it's names on this building, on these buildings, on the whole university campus. The founders of my organization are all entrepreneurs. Van Andel, DeVos, Meyer, Eberhard, you name them. We are living on their legacy money, if you will. Where are the next entrepreneurs coming from? We need venture capital in this community. We don't have it. We have an equity fund. We have venture capital in Kalamazoo. We have venture capital in Ann Arbor. Even the state of Michigan is now doing venture capital. We don't have a fund here. We have some angels. Don't discount those. But we really need to engender again in this community and people like you that taking a risk and starting a business is okay.